Did you know some shiny Pokemon weren't even supposed to exist? Over the years, players have discovered these obscure shiny Pokemon completely by accident, some through glitches and others in the most unexpected ways. We'll be taking a look across generations of Pokemon games to see exactly how these obscure shinies were found. And I guarantee you've never heard of some of these before, and we'll start off with the first obscure hunt found in the newest games, Scarlet and Violet. At the start of the story, right after you receive your starter, you might have noticed these squawkabillies on top of your house. You can observe them like any other normal Pokemon and actually encounter them, battle them, or even catch them if you really like. Now, Game Freak shiny locked these squawkabillies, but this only happened after the 1.0 version, which means if you never updated the games past the release version, you're still able to hunt these Pokemon. Here's how it worked. If you knocked out the two Pokemon, walk back to a point where they don't respawn, save the game, and change the date forward every time you reset your game. And from what I've found, only a few people have actually gotten this before.
Oh, no way! No way! Dude, shiny rooftop squawkabilly, baby! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Also, comment down below and let me know if you got any of these hunts in this video, or if you found your own obscure hunts. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet weren't the only Switch games to have an obscure hunt, and in fact, the next one comes just one generation before in Pokemon Sword and Shield. In June of 2020, Pokemon released the first DLC to this game, the Isle of Armor, which introduced players to tons of new Pokemon, storylines, and interactions. In this DLC, players could find an NPC wearing a white shirt named Regina. Thanks to Regina here, each day you could trade some of your native Galarian Pokemon in exchange for some of her non-Galarian native Pokemon. For example, if you wanted to trade her for an Executor, she'd give you an Alolan version in exchange. You could also reset the Pokemon she has by talking to one of the blue shirt girls selling apricots and buying them. Overall, there were 11 different Pokemon you could get from her. Now, you probably know by now that almost every gift or trade in Pokemon is always shiny locked, but for some reason these just weren't. As long as you had the Pokemon to trade, you could save right before talking to her, and you could actually see the shiny appear in the trade animation, which I think is super unique and really cool.
Oh, shiny Corsola! Oh my god, look! Look, it's there! Full odds! Full odds! Look at the bean!
But now it's time to put down the Switch games and go all the way back to 2006 when Pokemon Battle Revolution was released. One of the main draws to this game was the in-depth customization features, which was something we never really saw again until Pokemon X and Y for some reason. Anyway, you could even unlock full Pokemon costumes, and all you had to do to get them was beat the Coliseum leader that wore them, after beating the 6 other trainers before them as well. Now, the thing with Battle Revolution was that it came with a guidebook that showed the leaders wearing these costumes, but these were in their shiny forms. Now, this sparked some conversation on whether or not they actually could be hunted. I mean, you had a 1 in 8,192 chance to find it each time you battled them. Oh, and you could also accidentally find shiny Pokemon during these battles too, which makes things a bit worse. So overall, it was a pretty time-consuming thing that no one really wanted to try, and it remained that way for the next 16 years until someone named Professor Tops posted this. The first shiny Groudon outfit worn by Terrell after running battles over 8,300 times and took over 2 years to get. AbsoBlogs also did a hunt of it himself, and I think it's super cool to see it live in battle.
Oh, what the heck? Shiny Groudon costume! It actually happened! Look at that! It is so cool!
A little bit farther down the line in 2009 was the introduction of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, one of the best games. In these games, if you somehow ended up with teleporting yourself into Cianwood City with only one Pokemon in your party and no Pokemon in your PC, then one of the NPCs in the Pokemon Center will actually gift you a free Tentacool just so that you don't end up getting soft locked for not having a surf compatible Pokemon. You could also get the Tentacool by flying or surfing there and then releasing everything else in your box if you really wanted to. Now, this trick remained hidden for 11 years until someone discovered it, because Pokemon shiny hunters are crazy, followed up with the question of, could this be shiny hunted? Back in Generation 4, shiny locks were basically non-existent unless they were event gifts or things like that. So in theory, you could just soft reset the interaction with the NPC as long as you saved before talking to him until it was shiny, which was discovered only 5 months later.
Shiny Tentacle! Oh my gosh! I saw the star before I actually saw the shiny. That's hilarious.
But we can't forget the other part of Gen 4 series, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. And for this one, you'll have to let me explain it a bit. Now, the hunt itself wasn't that obscure. It was just soft resetting for the shiny Darkrai and Shaman events, which to most shiny hunters is nothing new. But what made this hunt so obscure was getting to that specific location. Now, if you were around in 2009, I know we're old, and happened to pick up Professor Oak's letter to get Shaman or members cards to get Darkrai, the game would allow you to travel to certain islands to encounter and hunt these mythicals. But if you're like me, then you most likely missed this event. But don't worry, here's where things get interesting. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl were pretty glitchy, like Scarlet and Violet level glitchy. If you managed to trick the chunks that loaded you in, you could actually glitch yourself into the void of the game. Now, this was a super dangerous trick, since it could break your game and essentially keep you stuck there forever. But if you counted a specific number of steps in certain directions and saved your games at very specific times, you could walk your way straight to the mythicals. Originally, the game was made with these Pokemon already spawned in them, and they were intended to be found by using the item. But by void glitching, you could just get there without needing them and encounter them normally, making them ready to be shiny hunted.
Yes, there we go, there we go. Shiny Shaman. Oh, wow, that's so awesome.
Now, you'd think after that whole mess of a glitch that there would never be another Pokemon game that lets you go into the void, right? Well, let's go back to Sword and Shield for a bit, where you could find a shiny that has unknown origins. Just about a month after the game's release, some players found that you could use the in-game berry trees to clip through surrounding objects. But the berry tree on Route 3 was the one that really broke the game. First, you need to glitch the in-game date by connecting to Nintendo Switch Online, playing an online ranked battle, exiting it, and changing the date. Then, by lining up your bike just right in between the tree and the rock behind you, you could shake the tree and encounter a Pokemon, which would allow you to glitch into the tree. This then allows you to go behind the tree, change the date, repeat it again, where you'd finally end up glitched into the rock and able to ride quite literally anywhere. I mean, you can even fly. But here's where the hunt comes in. If you have Pokemon eggs that you want to hatch and find a shiny of, you can technically hatch them while you're in the void flying around, and when you do so, the location will show up as a far away place. Something never seen before in a Pokemon game. The DS era was a pretty amazing time for these obscure shiny hunts because Generation 5 had 3 new ways to find an accidental shiny. And the first is actually before you even type your name in. Quite literally, right as you start up a new copy of Pokemon Black and White, you're greeted by Professor Juniper welcoming you to the Unova region. She introduces herself and then throws out her iconic Minccino sidekick. And believe it or not, this Minccino has a 1 out of 8,192 chance to be shiny. They never fixed this bug either, since the Cinccino she used to introduce herself in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 could also be shiny. Now, the unfortunate thing about this was that you couldn't catch or obtain the shiny in any way. So in my opinion, even though it's a shiny, it's gotta be one of the unluckiest ways to start a playthrough. Although if it's any consolation, you could see the shiny Minccino come back later in the game when she teaches you how to battle, which is actually pretty cool.
Oh, I got it! I got it! I got it! I got it! Let's go! I got it! Let's go!
No cheating devices. There it is. There it is.
Also, remember how I said basically every event gift Pokemon was shiny locked? Well, Generation 5 is kind of another rule breaker here. Now, this was true for basically every single gift in the game except for a set of 12 Japanese event Pokemon. For some reason, Sceptile, Blaziken, Swampert, Pikachu, Piplup, Milotic, Gardevoir, Walrein, Ludicolo, and Metagross never had a shiny lock on them, which means if you saved before receiving the gift, you could actually soft reset hunt them as much as you'd like. There's also a Kyogre and Groudon gift, so technically you can legally soft reset hunt the Gen 3 legendaries in Gen 5, which I think is actually really sick.
Oh, whoa, 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 shiny Kyogre. Oh my gosh. Shiny Kyogre. I need to lay down.
Now, here's where things start to get extremely obscure. Originally, I was going to keep Shiny Lock removal hunts off this list since it kind of defeats the purpose, but this one was just too bizarre and obscure to not talk about. Back in 2010, if you managed to obtain a pre-booking ticket for the new Pokemon movie Phantom Champion Zoroark, which was only featured in Japan, you'd get a Shiny Beast Legendary as a gift. Now, if you transfer your movie Shiny Beast up to Pokemon Black and White using the relocator item, the weird camper lady in the Lost Lorn Forest will attack you and take the form of one of these 3 legendary beasts. When she takes damage, the illusion wears off and reveals it was a Zoroark in disguise all along. This event by itself was already pretty obscure and hard to initiate, but if you remove the Shiny Lock using a DS action replay, you had one of 2 outcomes. The first was that Zoroark could be shiny and would only be known after damaging it once, but the second is something almost never found before.
Shiny Suicune, hello? Wait, the Suicune was shiny. Does that make Zoroark shiny?
For some reason, the beast form could also be shiny. Now, you couldn't catch it, and unfortunately, the next turn it would disappear forever. But the fact that you could even find one was something that confused a lot of shiny hunters at the time. And because the event was so hard to get, it's something that probably won't be seen again for a long time.
I got Shiny Zoroark! Shiny Zoroark! Oh my god! Shiny Zoroark! Dude, did that just happen? Did that just happen? Yo, that just happened. Oh my god. 2,309 hard resets.
But as far as I know, this next one might be the most obscure shiny ever found. Jirachi is a mythical Pokemon that is normally shiny locked and has very few legitimate methods to be found shiny. The first way, which you might know about already, is the Wishmaker Jirachi. You'd receive this through the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc, and the odds were actually less than full odds at the time, at 1 out of 7,281. But the second and more unknown method is by using the European and Australian versions of the Pokemon channel. You can actually get a Jirachi by beating the game and connecting it to a Game Boy and or Game Boy Advance, which then can be downloaded onto a version of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. After unlocking the full version of Pichu Bros in Party Panic, you'll be transferred to the Viridian Forest where Jirachi will appear and the mini-movie will be shown above the campfire. Due to a bug, this Jirachi can be shiny and is the only known way to get a shiny Jirachi legitimately outside of events like the Wishmaker one. And honestly, I'd consider this to be the rarest and most obscure shiny Pokemon, since the only way to roll for it was entirely replaying Ruby and Sapphire and Pokemon channel because it was hard locked per save.
Yeah! Whoa!
No way!
Now, while it may seem that every game-breaking feature to find certain Pokemon that you're not supposed to have has already been uncovered, it's not for certain. Pokemon games are incredibly complex, and honestly, we've probably only scratched the surface of uncovering all the other secrets that have been hidden away for decades. So let me know about some of your obscure shiny hunts in the comments, subscribe, and check out this video right over here about which games had the best shiny hunting methods.